Hey everybody, welcome to Ask the Anabolic Doc, starring Dr. Thomas O'Connor, brought to you by his websites, testosteronology.com, anabolicdoc.com, metabolicdoc.com, 3 websites and counting, guys. And his book, America on Steroids, A Time to Heal. You can get that at any of those sites or, of course, on Amazon.com. Please welcome all the way from Hartford, Connecticut area, Dr. Thomas O'Connor. How are you, Tom?
What's up, Ron?
Not too much. So we did a video last week, and you actually did part 1 and 2, and I guess you recorded them at the same time. And when the video was over, you sent me a text saying, my part 2 is the top 3 orals. What are your picks? And I came up with the exact same 3 in the same 3 order that you did them, but I can't take a lot of credit because
I loved it. But Ron, I flipped. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. You can give away the what they are.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's not a big secret. I asked my dog a few minutes ago. I said, "What are the top 3 oral steroids?" Said, Dianabol, Anadrol, Anavar. Yeah, sound like Scooby Doo, right? Yeah. So Dianabol, Anadrol, and Anavar. So again, this is a video that you did on your channel, Anabolic Doc, because somebody asked again, like, where can we find the doctor's videos?
Oh my Lord.
And yeah, Anabolic Doc. That is the channel where you can find Dr. Thomas's videos that are very well structured, annotated, very well done. So last week we did these are videos for physicians who are going to be treating patients with a history, either past or current of steroid use. And you want these physicians to know this is probably what these patients are coming in. This is what they're using most likely.
Yes. Because doctors call me all day and all night emailing me that they want more education on steroids. So I'm shifting. In addition to my patients, I'm never going to give up seeing patients. Never, guys, never. But what I decided is I'm not growing my practice. I'm not adding doctors because everyone wants to see me. So what I thought was I'm going to educate doctors all over the world, and you're going to be seeing it coming in the next 90 days.
I bet you will give up seeing patients when they get, Dr. Phil, he doesn't see he's not even a real doctor, right?
I don't know I don't think so.
He's probably got like a doctorate in music theory or something.
I think he was a real doctor. I think he was.
I'm just saying, if there's a Dr. Tom show, you might have to give all this up. But
I love it, but I'm late because I was with a man today, and I just evaporate into I just get so lost taking care of my patients. It's just like a dream. The business is always something that you have to work on, and the accounting and the bullshit, but working with the patients is always a dream, always a dream.
Yeah. Okay. So last week we went over the top 4 injectable steroids that guys use, girls too. First, the girls shouldn't be using all those for size and strength. And in your second video, you covered the top oral steroids, and you also threw in the other most common drugs that are used by bodybuilders. So let's get right to it. You began with the Breakfast of Champions. That actually was a T-shirt in the 70s. Dianabol, Breakfast of Champions with the Wheaties. It was kind of like a take on the Wheaties box.
I know.
And a lot of these kids are watching us going, Wheaties, what are Wheaties? It's a cereal. They're like, what's cereal? Anyway, so Dianabol is the most popular by far. I'd like to see a survey, but I bet I bet it accounts for a good 75% of all the oral steroid use in the world ever.
And it's still there, isn't it?
It still works. So it was developed many, many years ago, back in the late 50s. By Seba. You did a video. You can go to Anabolic Doc channel, and Dr. Thomas did a full video on Dianabol with the history, the chemical makeup, side effects, all that stuff. So we're just briefly running through these guys. So Dianabol, it's derived from test, as all steroids are, very estrogenic. It is one of the 17 alkylated steroids, which means it's not very safe for your liver. So, when people come to me and say, this is so ironic. A lot of guys, they're worried about their health, and they're afraid of steroids, and they're afraid of needles. So they're like, what can I take for pills? I'm like, wow. I said, well, if you want to be safe, you don't take pills at all. If you really.
That's why I'm doing this for doctors, because doctors have no clue.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of guys they don't like needles. They're afraid of giving themselves shots they just don't want to take an injection. So they look into these orals, and orals, it's easy. You pop a pill. They're fast acting. A lot of guys will use orals in addition to injectables, and forget about contest prep, because that's like a cornucopia. That's a whole pharmacy you're taking for a contest.
Wow.
But off-season cycles will typically they'll have, you know, your chest and deca or your chest and equipoise. Those are the base injectable steroids, but it's very, very common to start the cycle for at least the first 4 or 6 weeks with an oral steroid, because these injectables, like if you're taking tesipionate or deca, equipoise, it's going to take a week or two to really see and feel the results. But you pop some D-ball, next couple of days, you're feeling frisky.
And you know what? Another thing on that subject. So there's a lot, and we're just talking about the trends and what men really do, because you and I both see it. There's a movement, I think, in the last 5-10 years, where some powerlifters, they don't want to be toxic, so they don't take the drugs every day. You know, they take them on training days only, the orals. Yeah, I told you that, right?
Yeah, which you know, because they have a whole different outlook. It's all performance for them. They're not trying to get big. They could give a rat's ass about, oh, I put on 5 pounds, bro. You know, like the meatheads. So you know, what
Isn't that
would
amazing? Like 3 times a week. Well, they'll do it like 3 times a week, you know, or twice a week. They'll take a good dose of Anadrol or D-ball.
so what's the rationale behind that? Do they feel?
It's very straightforward.
Hmm,
When it's in your system, you have the androgen, you have an anabolic steroid in your system. You're
hmm,
training hard on that day, either you know, squatting, deadlifting, or benching. You know, one of the basics, right? Push
yeah,
pull,
yeah.
and then you're right before you know, the morning of or the afternoon, or I've even, no names mentioned, but I've been in the presence of underground places where the guy comes around and all the birds line up and he does the oral anadrol droplets.
Oh wow.
And then and
You're
then
talking
the
about like how baby birds wait to be feeded, you know, their
run,
moms vomit into their mouths. Yeah.
run, and then and I was in the mix up, and he came to me in the line. And I go, sir, I'm all set. And he's like, you're the anabolic doc, and I was like, sir.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'll let you go, doc, because you're the anabolic doc. This is like 10 years ago. I was
Wow.
on one of the road trips, and then the Metallica and the Black Sabbath on, and then I saw benching that day up to 900 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just like, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, so, and it was just like, maybe everyone was on the stuff every day anyway, but the philosophy was, these are the training days only. Everyone's on the intermuscular steroids, like you said, the basic stuff. And then the training days, they just take an oral, you know, a lot of oral steroids now, you know, they're not pills, they're droplets. You know that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, Dianabol goes way back. It was very widely used throughout the going back to the 60s and 70s. And I've talked to a lot of old school guys who trained around Arnold in that era and everything. And the doses back then were so small compared to what we see now.
Yeah.
I talked to some guys like John Balick from Iron Man magazine told me like one Dianabol a day, and I think those were 5 milligram tabs back then. So can you imagine that your steroid dose is 35 milligrams a week total?
And now they're doing what, 20, 40, 50 a day.
I don't hear anybody doing less than 40, 50. And I
Wow.
hear them pushing up to 100. You know, when we get to Anadrol,
Wow.
we'll get to that in a minute, but Anadrol, because it comes in 50 milligram tabs typically, people go really haywire. But Dianabol, in those years, it came in 5 milligram tabs, and supposedly in like college weight rooms, professional sports team weight rooms, it used to be in candy dishes for the guys to just
Come
grab and
on.
pop like a breath mint. Yeah. You know, this is I never saw it obviously, but this is
No, I've heard the same
I've
thing.
heard that
Back in
too.
the 70s and 80s, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, doctor, let's start with Dianabol. As far as toxicity, if someone's taking 50 milligrams a day, 50, 60 milligrams a day, generally speaking, how long can they stay on that before they're going to start seeing their liver enzymes go through the roof?
So I had a guy come in that I did an Instagram post on, that he was taking, or hold on a minute, he was taking, because I threw it. Wait a minute.
Ah,
Here it is. I
okay.
threw it into the garbage. He was taking an oral agent that you could see the Instagram post, and it's a prohormone complex, and it's got methyl 1 alpha, methyl stenbolone,
Mm,
and DMZ, max LMG, and trestolone.
wow.
So basically, you know, there's some mix of oral steroids in there, right? No one's going to
Yeah.
argue that. I love Dr. T and all this and that, but just let's not get crazy. So if you take Anadrol or D-ball, right, and maybe Anavar is different, but you know, if you take a good effective dose, it will definitely, your liver enzymes are going to go up within 36 hours.
Wow.
I've seen guys take it to experiment. Again, this is my over 10th year of doing this, so I've seen there's nothing I haven't seen.
Mm.
So guys have called up just because I'm a decent, humble person. They were, ethical. They're like, Doc, I want to do my labs today, and okay, well, tell the nurse, get your labs done. Check a CBC, check a comprehend, and I review the labs with him, and he goes, how my LFTs? This is 10 years ago. They're up a little bit. What's going on? And he goes, that was 36 hours after doing, 50 milligrams of Anadrol. So every man is different. And then I have other guys, and then we don't know though, but was it counterfeit? Was it not? Then it gets into like, was it real? Was it not? We don't even know. But most Dianabol is real because it's cheap to make. So
Right.
that's a big piece. So the truth is, look, Ron, guys, Dianabol, I think some of these real, and this is not medical advice, it's my opinion, guys do Anadrol, D-ball, they run it for, 6 weeks, 4 weeks. Some guys come off for the weekends, they every other day. And their liver enzymes all go up, but they don't go up that much. It just and they don't get elevations of bilirubin. So this man came into me. It was 18 months off after being off this only, supposedly. And he's not lying to me. His testosterone's low. So he has anabolic steroid-induced hypogonadism. Was he low anyway? He's only like 42. He's not a steroid user. He's an executive of some sort. So he does this stuff. He ended up in the hospital. His bilirubin levels were over 12. He was fully yellow.
Jeez. That's jaundice, as we
He
say.
was jaundice. He was
Wow.
fully jaundice, and he had liver. He had an expert liver guy, doc. This is again a long time ago, and they watched the levels come down. The doctor was a nice guy, but oh my God, this is why you don't do steroids. And he just didn't know oral steroids, intramuscular steroids. So this is a prohormone. Everyone loves to get on the bandwagon. Oh, prohormones are so much worse. I don't even know what it was. I mean, maybe it was just Anadrol or D-ball on top of Superdrol. No one knows. And Dr. T, I don't want to hear it. I love you, but I just don't, there's no need to discuss it because every man, what if this man has a propensity for liver disease? Now, there's something called Gilbray's, which is not liver disease. But if you look at Gilbray guys, and then they have a propensity they're missing a partial enzyme, which is a normal variant, their bilirubin levels are up to 2. So if you take, and it looks like maybe they're up at over 1.2 on most scales is going to be abnormal. Steroid users using oral steroids, it's very rare. We don't see the bilirubin levels or alk phos go up. It's not obstructive disease. It's not cholestatic yet. If you do it long enough and you have other disease states, or if you're drinking tons of booze, or you have hepatitis, Hep C or Hep A or Hep B, see how complicated, or Wilson's disease? I've seen all these things. And then all that stuff interacts, and then you have liver disease.
Now, when you say cholestatic, is that when you have the cysts inside the liver?
No. Cholestatic is just when things slow down and the bilirubin builds up.
Okay, gotcha.
Cholestatic. Lipids. Means the lipid and the out. Excuse me. Chol means the bilirubin, and the liver. Static means stasis, so it slows down and it can't get rid of it, so it builds up, and then you get jaundiced. And that's going to be anything over like about bilirubin of about 3, 2.5, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to definitely see it. This man was 12. His stomach, he was throwing up. He felt like garbage, and he was taking he obviously stopped the pills, and then it didn't go away. He thought he just got sick, like he had a viral infection. And the doctor was even said, maybe it's a viral infection. He told them he was on oral agents, and they just said, stop. They did a liver ultrasound. They were about to do a liver biopsy.
Yikes.
And the guy said, because the doctor was saying, if you don't come down, you need a liver transplant.
Oh my gosh.
So no, Ron, but I'm not joking. There's no joke. This is not a joke.
No, I'm not laughing at that.
And the guy that came in goes, Doc, if guys are so cavalier and they just think that you're just trying to scare these guys, you are fucking fools, man. You're just gambling in Vegas, guy. You're gambling. He's like, Doc, I did this little stuff that is like, I don't know, it's like Prohormone. I got it online.
Yeah.
and it's not even Anadrol or D-ball. And then the guys argue, that stuff's worse than Anadrol and D-ball.
Yeah,
I've seen
that's what
guys.
I've always heard that Superdrol was on the product named Superdrol. I think it's been off the market for at least 10 years, but it's been cloned and reproduced by so
Yeah.
many underground labs, just like all these other steroids. Like there's a million people making their own Dianabol and test and everything. A million people making their own counterfeit
Yes.
Superdrol, and I've always heard that from people who do get their blood work done. They said it's a lot more toxic on the liver than anything like Anadrol or D-ball, which is crazy because you're buying it legally.
So it may be true. That's why I'm trying to do research on this stuff, Ron. But we're not going to start experimenting on human monkeys. I mean, like, it's just
Get some prisoners.
it's so it's like it's just interesting that the average bear that does Anavar, Anadrol, D-ball on top of test, equipoise, pre, all this, and with their liver enzymes are strained, and then they come off, and everything cleans up.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? I'm just amazed at that.
Well, the liver is a very regenerative organ.
It's very strong,
Kidneys, not so much, apparently.
but not for the guy that came in on Monday.
No, not for him.
And I've seen some other guys. I told you the Prince of Sheba guys. I've had the Prince of Sheba guys, from Middle East, which I love these guys. And he lived on Dianabol for years.
Yeah.
And he's the guy that he went to Hopkins and they removed part of his liver because he had those liver cysts. That's called pileosis hepatis. And those are blood-filled cysts. And I've seen a few of those. There's a guy I had locally in Connecticut that ended up in Yale. He's like, if you guys don't think you can get liver disease, it's super. His liver failed.
Wow.
So liver transplant. I've seen them. They come to me because they need to be on testosterone. It's just you're gambling in Vegas. Most guys do steroids. They do short runs for 2 or 3 weeks. You know that, Ron, or maybe for 4 weeks or more. And I'm amazed to say that, knocking on wood, the majority of guys, they walk away from it. I guess if you do it, and then the end the implications on the heart is another story. Like if you have bad heart disease, your HDL is going to go definitely down. Your LDL is going to go up. Your blood, you're puffed. You're going to be puffy. I mean, no one's going to have normal blood pressure unless you're 23 years old on Dianabol. I can tell you that.
True. And we could pretty much say a lot of these same things about Anadrol. Like, as far as I'm concerned, because I've used both of them, I've used more Dianabol than Anadrol, but to me, they're about the same as far as dosage and the effects. You get puff, you retain water, you get bigger, you get stronger, you put weight on. A lot of it's water, because you'll notice if you're running an oral like Anadrol or Dianabol with your a couple injectables, you'll notice you'll put on a certain amount of weight, and then once you cease the oral, within a week, you'll drop a good 4 or 5, maybe 6 pounds, just water.
Wow.
And you can freak out if you don't know what's going on. You're like, oh my God, I'm losing my gains. But if you really pay attention, it was just water. It was water retention.
Wow.
But Anadrol different. It's DHT derived, so it's actually quite different in the makeup from Dianabol. But many of the same type of effects, and it's also very liver toxic. I have a suspicion that it's abused more often simply because it does typically come in 50 milligram tablets or capsules.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to do 1, 2, 3. I've heard there was a certain coach. I don't want anyone mad at me. There was a certain coach that had his pro bodybuilder clients doing as much as 8 of those a day, which would be 400 milligrams of Anadrol a day on top of 5, 6, 7 other drugs. And a couple of these guys did have very, very severe health problems. A couple of them have actually left the sport, for whatever reason.
That's just, I can't believe. I've heard the powerlifters, some of the best in the world, they do 2 or 3.
Yeah. So I asked one of these guys, I said, why so much? They said, well, it helps you stay full while you're dieting. Because there's even these guys who are enormous, they're terrified of losing even the tiniest bit of muscle size and fullness. They want to stay as big, full, I want to say bloated because they don't want to look bloated, but they want to be as gigantic as possible.
Let me ask you this: to any pro bodybuilders, any time in history, even today, is there any role for using these oral drugs even up to the contest?
Any rule?
Role. Is there any role for it? Role.
Not those particular. They will use things like oral Winstrol. I've seen oral. Is it Masteron? I think comes in oral sometimes too. Typically, they will use orals up until the very end because they don't want to do any injections the final week because you don't want a chance getting an abscess
Oh,
or
wow.
having a bruise that can show on your shoulder or your glute. Because you will get marked down if they can see you had a bad shot. I've seen that happen to people. So they will run just orals a lot of times the last week.
But
You know,
not Debol or Anadrol.
no, a lot of Anavar. I told you my experience years ago with oral Winstrol,
Winstrol.
and I was getting them in 50. I had them in 50 milligram tablets, so I was going haywire. I was out of my mind.
Oh my
Yeah. And I told you my general practitioner, that was the last time I ever saw that particular doctor. He thought I was in liver failure. He thought I had hepatitis when he looked at the blood work. Because
Yeah.
I told you I was dumb enough to get my blood work done
Oh,
immediately after the contest
yeah.
when it was rough. Yeah. So let's turn to Anavar because Anavar is thought to be the safest steroid in general. This is what a lot of women use. But interestingly enough, you said that's actually very, very popular drug in powerlifting. Always has been.
Oh my Lord. Massive strength drug.
Which is odd because if you ask guys now, they associate it with women
No,
using
no.
it.
So the old fashioned, the old school, I just don't want to say names, the old school guys from the 70s and 80s, the big powerhouse guys back in the day, test Sustanon 250 and Anavar.
Mm. Yeah. Now, what were the doses like back for those guys? Do you know?
Sustanon 250, they would always take 1 cc a week
Yeah.
and still train on and off, on that. And then they would go up to maybe 750, so 3 cc's a week. And then
Okay.
they would an Anavar, maybe 80 milligrams, maybe,
Daily.
60 to 80 milligrams, maybe even more. And super genetic guys, incredibly strong, always training year round, just super gifted and knowing how to train and rest and perform.
Yeah.
And the guys have told me that in the old day, some of the best power lifters, they were strong all year round. And it's a problem with using drugs, right? Because you can never come off because kind of like pro bodybuilders. Like if you're gonna after the season and you got to do those guest appearances. I guess I know we saw that guy. I don't know his name. I forgot his name, but he was all oiled and he was all blown up and looked all bloated in one of his and even the Mr. Olympia. Remember he competed and he did a show, a guest posing routine. He just looked terrible compared to the way he does in his show.
Oh, we're talking about Sean, the guy who didn't get to
So I
defend
guess
his.
yeah, I don't follow bodybuilding. So Sean, and I don't even want to say the names. I don't want to put these guys down. I respect these guys. So but there's other guys that have just they guest pose and they look like really they're not cut. Let's just say they're not cut.
Right.
So it's like, but what do they do? I mean, stay on the cutting steroid doses the whole goddamn year. They're gonna die. No one's gonna. So you got to powerlifters back in the day, even today, if they peak for a meet and then it's like everyone takes a week or so off, maybe after. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. And then it's like you got to go back into training because they love it. They don't do it they do it because they love it. No one's getting rich powerlifting. So back in the day, that's the blasting and cruising came in because they were like, we got to train all. So these guys are strong all year round, pretty much on like higher TRT doses. I'm telling you the truth. And then they would increase the drugs. They told me so because when you're competing, doc, you're nervous. You got to put it all together in one day. You got to get your brain. You're in front of the crowd. You want to get that teeny personal record on the bench, squat, deadlift. So we would do the drugs really not to get so much stronger because we're training stronger year round. And no one's nowadays doing drugs to get 50 pounds on your bench for a new meet. That no one's doing that. That's just you're going to be living at such a high level all right after you're pretty much a pro in powerlifting. So getting 10 pounds or 20 pounds. Now this is without the shirts, right, and all the equipment and stuff. But even with the equipped lifters, but when they would do the drugs, they said, Doc, I would do the drugs just to make sure I was confident for my lifts.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You know what I
So,
mean?
so more for a feeling of well-being and confidence.
So no one wants to open up, to go to a meet and bomb out of the meet. So you open up with an opener that you feel confident with. You're in front. You don't know the bar. You don't know you're in a new gym. I mean, I've competed. I've competed in push pulls, bench and deadlift only, and I'm obviously a novice. But I did bench 505 at 198, and I had to, that was pretty good. And
Yeah.
I was 47 years old, and it was such a powerful thing spiritually to do, to do because I love to do that. And I really can think, wow, man, these strong men guys, not to mention bodybuilders, to no one knows what it's like to be that you have to peak for that one day. And so the drugs, I mean, they're there to help, but if you're taking, I've heard pro strongmen tell me, Doc, I take too much Anadrol, I get nauseous, I lose weight, I feel like shit. I
Yeah.
can't hold. No one does insulin, Doc, because you can't hold on to the shit because your pump is so. This is amazing. That I love this show.
Yeah.
I just wish.
We're gonna get to insulin in a few minutes, but yeah, that
I
I
mean,
saw that in your video, and that was an interesting observation you made about that.
yeah. So, you'll hear it only from when I ask the strongest men in the world, powerlifters and hobby guys, and amateurs and pro strongmen. They tell me testosterone, Anadrol, but don't take too much because if you're nauseous and you're flying out to some meet and you're freaking throwing up in the on the air in the airplane
Yeah.
and you can't keep your food down because you're on Anadrol.
Yeah, that's one thing about Anadrol. I experienced it a little bit. You do get after a couple weeks on it, you do start feeling nauseated. Your appetite is a real issue, and that's if you're trying to gain muscle, you need to eat a lot of food. So you're on equipoise to boost your appetite. Meanwhile, the Anadrol's ruining your appetite. You get this battle going on in your body.
And then if you're
But
training in the gym and you're trying to lift heavy weight and squatting and deadlifting and benching or being a strong man and you're nauseous, that's not going to
yeah,
be good.
yeah, Anadrol definitely. D-ball is more of a feel good oral than Anadrol. Anadrol, pretty much anybody will tell you after 2, 3 weeks on it, physically you just don't feel good. You do not feel good. So you feel like something's wrong. People start getting like lower back pain. Their appetite's gone. It's just
Back pumps.
the back pump. Yeah, that was a question for Dr. T. Did we cover that with him? I think
No.
recently. Yeah, that was a Dr. T question we just talked about back pumps. Or is it the next one? Another thing about when we're talking about Anavar, uh, I want you to address one thing. It's because it does have this reputation, probably undeserved, as being completely safe. People think Dianabol bad, Anadrol bad, Anavar good, Anavar safe.
No, so Anavar and Anavar only cycles in women and people. Anavar is just definitely the most well tolerated oral steroid. There's no question about it. From the side effects of masculinization, to even acne, but people still will get acne, and the cardiac, it lowers it. It's not a bloated drug. You don't get bloated and estrogenic on it.
Yeah,
So therefore, the hypertension, it's better tolerated. No one's going to argue that because it's the nature of the drug. So therefore, men, that I know of and I see, they will take higher doses, 60, 80, 100 milligrams for prolonged periods. When you look on the labs, the livers are going to be strained, usually not cholestatic, where the belly's up and alk phos is looking bad and they have permanent damage. But it just in the HDL, the cholesterol panels are always going to look horrible if you really have Anavar. A lot of times it's not Anavar. It's
yeah. I wanted to touch on that because Anavar is very expensive. If we're talking about per pill, it's probably 3 to 4 times more expensive per milligram of drug than Dianabol or Anadrol.
yeah,
So what happens very, very frequently is that drug dealers, not being the most scrupulous people in the world at times, will pass off. They'll sell you Anavar, but it's really D-ball or Anadrol.
yes.
Which, if you're a guy, that's not a big deal. But if you're a woman, yikes, you're going to start growing some little stubble. Your voice is going to start getting
Uh,
baritone. Yeah, your hairline. You're a female. You don't want your hairline starting to creep up, and it's happened. I've known women that told me that's what happened to them is they were on Anavar, but it turned out it wasn't Anavar, and it really screwed them up.
I've heard, what women I've heard, when they're in here with their loved ones, and when I've done some consults for women, I never treat women, they've said, yeah, I knew I was on. You could tell after a few pills that yeah, I got a bad batch of Anavar,
Mm.
it's Dianabol, and they just throw it out, or they do something else.
Oh, throw it out. Oh, I hate hearing that. It's
Give it
like
to the husband. I don't know. Give it to the boyfriend. I don't know.
Yeah, I always say that's a waste of perfectly good steroids. But so you talked about all these things, all these drugs, even Anavar, all these orals will quickly raise your blood pressure. That's one thing you have to be very careful
And
with,
not
correct?
Anavar won't though so much. Why? Because it's not estrogenic like the other steroids are.
Mm,
And I'm not going to get into the argument of, you know, some guy said something about Anadrol is not estrogenic. Bullshit, it's not estrogenic.
It's not.
It is massively estrogenic.
Why do you get gyno and hair loss and
It's
acne and
estrogenic. They think
water bloat?
they're trying to think it's DHT derived. It's massively estrogenic. Massively estrogenic.
Yeah, that's a terrible argument.
Go look at the textbooks. Go look at like Wikipedia. I don't know. I mean, go talk to an organic chemist. He'll tell you.
Okay, so that's it. We covered the 3 most common oral agents. Now you also did a little section there for the doctors on the other most commonly used PEDs. So we have human growth hormone, very widely used. For anti-aging purposes, you'll see guys use 2 to 4 IUs a day. For bodybuilders especially, I don't know where they're getting this money. I really don't. Some of them are getting it for free. I know that for sure. But it's not uncommon to see them do 10, 15, even 20 units of growth hormone a day, which is, thousands of dollars a month if they're paying for it.
And you'll get puffy on that. Like you'll get edema from that.
Yeah, they get edema, they get carpal tunnel syndrome. You discussed insulin sensitivity can be an issue with that. Can you become diabetic from using growth hormone?
The truth is, I'm just giving the truth here. We don't see that, but there's no studies on this though. We just don't know. But you don't see it readily. So it's that insulin receptor, that tyrosine kinase receptor for all you bro science, real science guys, testosteronology doctors are coming under my wing. So like those tyrosine kinase receptors with that insulin molecule, with that, it's very durable. And it seems like when you pull the drug off, kind of like the thyroid is, when you pull the offending agent off, it resets. Unlike the hypothalamus and the pituitary, that when you hit it with androgen after a time period, it will relent, and then it won't come back. There's some, I call it apoptosis for lack of a molecular word that we don't have, where it just doesn't come back. So we don't. So the news, and I have to be scientific for the guys that are watching, because this is a science, right? Not a bro. It's a real science. We just don't have so much data. We're trying to generate the data. So we don't. It has effects when you're on that much growth hormone, but not for every guy. I'm just amazed the variability across the board, because fingerprints. Every man's got a different. And younger men can. God, young men can do anything. It looks like. Yeah. That's the problem with this stuff, Ron. And then you get in your 40s and older, 30s and 40s, and it just depends on like how much what was your propensity for the heart disease or for whatever disease. And then, for the diabetes, and it just, I don't know.
One thing I've definitely seen with some bodybuilders who have abused it for periods of time is the is it acromegaly? I've never heard it pronounced. Acromegaly. Because I can distinctly remember one year at this regional show we have in Boston, there were the top 3 or 4 heavyweights. They were all bald. They all had these big, the tip of the nose gets bigger. Their jaw gets bigger. The brow ridge they look like cavemen, and they all look like they were brothers.
God.
Like how I'm not putting Down syndrome has a certain look.
Yeah.
You could tell someone with Down syndrome right away. These guys all had the growth hormone face. You could see it. And
that takes time. That's got to take years.
And I've seen women with it too. I've seen walking around the expos. It's typically the older retired female bodybuilders in their 40s and 50s. Unfortunately, their hairline's up to here, and they got the brow ridge, the big fat nose, the cartilage on the end of the nose is grown. Wow. I guess the hands and feet can also grow, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just incredible. It's incredible, Ron.
IGF-1 you mentioned. You don't see a lot of IGF-1 used. It's very hard to get. It's even more expensive than growth hormone. The real IGF is very hard to get, and it's cost prohibitive. You would have to be someone who either has a lot of disposable income, or bodybuilding is your livelihood, and you're willing to sacrifice other things to have all the money. Because I've heard of like $1,000 a week.
Yeah, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 a month.
That's insane. I'm sorry.
It works. I guess it really works though, doesn't it? Though it's incredible.
I've heard it's almost like it's taken on a mythic status. It's like what do you call those stories that everyone believes that they're not true? The urban legends. Yeah. I've heard urban legends about IGF-1. It's like you put it into any body part that's weak, and suddenly that body part will grow.
That's unreal.
Which to me, that means any pro with a weak body part would just have to use that, and then which I don't think that's true. It almost sounds like you're talking to the bottle and saying, "Look,
Go.
this is what I want," and it's gonna be like a genie and grant you your wish.
I think
So I don't.
there's so much drugs being used. It's hard to know what's what, you know.
So let's turn to the last one you discussed, which was insulin, which is if you're not a diabetic person, you really shouldn't be messing around with insulin, but it's cheap. And I believe they can't deny you insulin at like a Walgreens or CVS if you come in and say you need it, right?
Well, the Walmart, yeah, that's that law, you know, federal that people, if you're a diabetic and you can't get a prescription from your doctor because you know just no one's calling you back, and you walk in and you're a diabetic, the pharmacist will look at you and make a decision that you know that they know how to kind of ask questions, and they can look in the computer to see where have you gotten it from, sir? You're a
Mm.
diabetic, so you're not going to bullshit. You're not going to bullshit. You know the a good pharmacist at Walmart. You know, but so your answer is right. If you're a diabetic, and isn't that great though? Thank God that
Yeah.
they're gonna. But I don't think these guys aren't getting. No one's getting it. You know, from there, guys are ordering it online. They're getting it through their connections. It's easy to get anything now.
See, I've when I was getting it years ago, and I looked at it came up on my Instagram. It was the winter of 20. It must have been the winter of 2013 into 14. That was my insulin winter, where I got up to just under 250 pounds. My face looked like a pumpkin. My gut was out to here. I couldn't breathe, and that was because I was doing insulin. I was doing.
Oh
Hey,
wow.
are you sitting down, Doc? This
Yeah.
was 20 units before my workout, 20 units after the workout, drinking, carb drinks during the workout. And after the workout, which is my undoing, Milo Sarshev says, do not have fat. It's got to be all carbs. Here I was eating like chocolate chip cookies, muffins, mixing fat and sugar together, which was a
Did you get
terrible idea.
strong? Did you get strong?
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to strength the way you would. I probably was getting stronger. I'm sure I was, but that wasn't my priority. I was trying
But,
to see.
did it put a lot of muscle on? Did it really? Is it anabolic though for you?
I don't know how much I gained was actually muscle. I probably put on a couple pounds of muscle. I definitely got fatter. Definitely got fatter. A lot of water retention, a lot of fat. So when I say I was almost 250, it was a very ugly,
Wow.
sloppy 250. It was not pretty. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I look at pictures. I think from that Christmas and New Year's, I look at those pictures. I'm like, oh my God, it's just
Wow.
yikes,
Wow. It's crazy.
horrific. So
Well,
yeah,
God bless you for telling these stories, Ron. Thank you so much for coming.
yeah, no problem. So insulin, yeah, insulin's very, very widely used. In fact, I've heard from guys who consider themselves natural bodybuilders, and a lot, it seems like every natural bodybuilder's got his own definition of what's natural and what that's not a drug. So this insulin, while diabetics, that's a part of my body, so that doesn't count.
Wow.
So I've heard natural guys say, well, yeah, I'm natural. I take insulin, but I'm still
Oh
natural.
my God.
Or I take
Wow.
growth hormone and insulin, but I'm still natural. And I take prohormones, but I'm still natural. So
That's amazing.
you're as natural as Fruit Loops, I tell them. Fruit Loops are actually, there's no real fruit in Fruit Loops.
Oh, I know. Oh, it's great stuff, Ron.
Roll ups. I don't think there's very little actual fruit in those either. So that was a quick primer that you gave the
Woo.
physicians out there on your channel, Anabolic Doc, as far as what to expect with their patients when they come into you. These are probably the things they're using. There are many, many more steroids that are, you could talk all day about all the other steroids, but 99% of the people that come into a doctor's office, they're going to be using only the things we talked about because they're the most widely available and the most widely used. If you can't, the other things are more for people at the pro bodybuilding, top
Yeah.
amateurs and pros, but most people, the recreational guys,
Yeah.
and girls, this is what they're going to be using is the top 4 injectables, the top 3 orals, and maybe growth hormone insulin, maybe like Clen or something too, but
It's
that's
just
about it.
incredible. So since the 1970s, nothing's changed on that front. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, the only things that have really been developed since then, when you think about it, are undetectable things like the whole Balco scandal,
Designer
designer
steroids. Yeah.
steroids, which were
More
really
out
just
there.
to avoid detection. There's nothing. I don't think they have any special properties that the other drugs don't have.
No, no. Amazing, Ron.
So, well, Doc, that's been another spellbinding episode of Ask the Anabolic Doc. I want to encourage you guys to go to the doctor's YouTube channel, Anabolic Doc. If you're subscribing to him, you should subscribe to us too. We're awesome. And of course, check out his websites, Testosteronology. Take the word testosterone, take the E off the end and put OLOGY, because it's not in the dictionary yet, Doc. It's going to take a couple years before.
We're going to get it. We'll be working on it.
Webster's or Merriam-Webster, they're gonna add that eventually.
Yes.
Testosteronology.com, anabolicdoc.com, and metabolicdoc.com. All three of those websites, guys, there is a place you can contact the doctor. He does Skype consultations, Skype, Zoom, FaceTime. No matter where you are in the world, you could be in the Middle East, South Africa, it doesn't matter. He can help you. And that's how you reach the doctor, because that's always another question. How do I contact the doctor? Easy.
Thank you, Ron.
Got 3 great websites you can choose from. And of course, pick up the book, America on Steroids, A Time to Heal, at any of those websites or Amazon.com.
Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you guys at Muscular Development. Love it.
Thank you, doctor, for taking the time to share your knowledge and expertise with all the people around the world who really, really need it. All the men. Yeah. You're here for the brothers. So
yes.
Thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for watching Ask the Anabolic Doc, and we'll see you next time.